The paperwork says, we hit a submerged rock in 1997. I was there. Rocks do not have teeth. We were in the North Pacific northeast of Wake, middle of another dark watch. I was at the sonar console, listening to that slow, low hum the basin always gave back to us. The ship's usual smells were there in the background, burnt coffee and old bilge, and a thin trace of oil. Routine, boring, safe, or so we thought. Then something hit us from below. Hard. The deck rose under my boots like an elevator, then dropped. Mugs flew. Someone went down in the passageway outside. The whole hull rang like a struck pipe. They kicked on the floodlights along the side. For a heartbeat, I saw it, just off the beam. A pale, massive head coming out of the black, a mouth opening wider than our bow, teeth like thick, curved stakes, then gone in the wash. At first light, the divers found steel plating bent inward in smooth arcs, deeper than it should bend and still hold. The report called it contact with an unknown submerged object. No one wrote the word Megalodon. I'm going to tell you why they skipped that word and why I know what really hit us. Before we start the video, hit the subscribe button to support the channel. It only takes a second. I was sonar technician, second class Ryan Cole back then, serving on the USS Archer. She was an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer still young enough to smell of clean paint and new wiring. Late 1997. Quiet time. No hot zones for us. Just wide water and long days. Mostly drills, reports, and keeping the ship ready for anything that never seemed to come. We were northeast of Wake Island, sitting over a deep basin that barely had a name. It showed up on our charts as a set of fine contour lines and depth numbers. Nothing more. Most of us never thought twice about those numbers. I only remember them because I watched them every day on my screens. They changed fast as the bottom fell away under our track. I would glance at them without thinking, the way you check a watch. Life on Archer ran in steady loops. Wake up, eat chow, stand watch, clean something, sleep when you could. The ship felt like a small town made of steel, humming with engines and always carrying that steady mix of burnt coffee, oil, and salt in the passageways. I spent most of my time in sonar, green screens, quiet voices, the soft hum of the ocean in my headset. Some days it felt like the sea was just a machine breathing. Captain Daniel Reed was in command. Late 40s, sharp eyes, calm. He was the kind of officer who could read a chart like a story. Not warm, not cold, steady. He hated surprises, but followed orders without complaint. Our XO, Lieutenant Commander Emily Shore, ran the day-to-day with strict checklists. She was the sort who believed in rules more than luck. If she could label and schedule every minute, she would. Lieutenant Jason Kim was our sonar officer, younger than Reed and Shore, but smart and careful. He spoke in measured words, as if he weighed them before letting them out. Chief Harlow, our senior sonar tech, was the old hand. He had served through the tail end of the Cold War and loved telling us how submarine games back then felt like playing chess with ghosts. He would sit beside us at the consoles, arms folded, listening for faint noises even the computers ignored. Then there was Dr. Evelyn Hart, a civilian, ocean acoustics specialist, soft voice. Always watching the screens like she was waiting for something to speak from the dark below. She said she was there to help us troubleshoot the sensor field near the basin. The field was a string of deep ocean instruments on the bottom. Some had gone quiet or sent odd data. We were told to help recover what we could and report anything unusual. On paper, our mission was simple. Patrol, keep presence, run anti-submarine drills, check why a few of the sensors had stopped sending clean readings. The command message called it support to a classified research project. That line raised some eyebrows, but no one made a fuss. These things happened in the Navy. Half the time, classified work was something dull, like testing a new cable or checking a faulty buoy. We fell into routine. PT on deck at dawn, salt wind on our faces. Then chow, usually eggs that came in large trays and coffee that tasted like it had been brewed by someone angry. In sonar, we watched merchant ships show up as crisp green lines, then fade. We tracked the occasional submarine training run, nothing special. Hours passed in steady beats. Hart visited sonar often. She asked for old recordings from earlier patrols over that basin. She compared them with what we were collecting. She never said what she was hunting for in the data. Sometimes she would rub her fingers together, as if feeling something in the air while she listened through our headsets. She wrote down more notes than she shared. Harlow kept things light when he could. He liked to say deep basins had a way of holding sound the way caves hold echoes. The bottom swallows noise down there, he would say. Some places just carry secrets. He never meant monsters. At the time, I took it as old sailor talk, like stories told to fill a quiet hour. For the first week, it all felt like any other patrol. The biggest excitement was a card game in the mess or someone dropping a wrench in a compartment where it did not belong. The ocean was calm most days. The swells had a slow rhythm. Even at night, the water around us looked peaceful, almost glossy under the lights. But small things started to shift. The first sign was a deep sensor halfway down the basin that logged a strange, large moving mass before it went silent. Kim thought it was a bad read. Hart argued softly that the profile was too clean to be random noise. They did not think I heard them, but in sonar, every small voice carries. They talked about size estimates that did not match any known whale or submarine. I told myself it was just a glitch. Then Command sent a short message: extend patrol in that grid. Stay another stretch. Gather more data before leaving. Nothing about danger. Nothing about odd readings. Just extend. That word always bothered me. When Command wants you to stay without giving reasons, you know something is off. The days passed with that quiet pressure building, like a question waiting in the dark. I kept listening to the soft hum in my headset, the background noise of the basin. Now and then, I felt a slow vibration through the deck. Faint, easy to ignore, but different from the usual engine rhythm. I would glance at the depth numbers again, trying to understand if it was the ship or the sea speaking. By then, some part of me already knew routine was slipping away. I just did not know how far it would go. The days after that first extension felt almost normal, but the cracks widened in small ways. We ran drills as usual. Man overboard practice, damage control checks, fire hose tests in the passageways, all the things a ship does when the sea gives you nothing but time. The crew trusted the Archer. She was strong and steady. We believed that as long as we followed the steps, nothing could surprise us. During one of the morning rounds, the deck crew spotted a drifting buoy from the sensor field. It should have been in place, talking to the rest of the line. Instead, it bobbed alone, paint faded, casing dented. When they pulled it aboard, we all gathered around. A strong hit from debris would have left sharp marks or long scrapes. This casing was crushed in a smooth inward arc, like something pushed straight into it with steady pressure. Hart brought out her calipers and took quiet measurements. She did not call it a bite. She did not need to. Later that day, while I was on watch, I heard a very low pulse at the edge of the sonar range. Not the usual echo from a slope or ridge. This felt slower, almost aware. It only came when we crossed certain lines over the basin, as if something down there reacted when our track changed. Kim leaned in beside me, listening through his own headset. He said nothing at first. He just frowned and wrote down a few numbers. That low pulse became one of the things I came to fear. It did not sound like a voice or a signal. It felt like a slow pressure inside my ears, like the ocean had lungs. Reed and the XO looked at charts more often as the days went on. I heard parts of their talks. Most of it was about the cost of the sensor field and how Command wanted proof that the network still worked. Reed never raised his voice, but he had that tight posture he used when he did not like a set of orders and did not want the crew to see it. Strange details kept piling up. A lookout said the swells felt slower in that grid, like the water carried more weight. One of the engineers logged a faint vibration that only showed up when we passed over the deepest contour. He thought it was a loose panel at first, but nothing was found. Another day, we recovered a ruined life raft. The rubber skin was cut open by long, deep marks that curved inward. Not the way wind or sun splits old material. No sign of the ship it came from. No number we could trace. Just a ghost piece of something that never should have floated that far alone. Hart's quiet theory started to take shape. She spoke in careful words about a large predator using depth and current to hunt. She never said the name. She avoided even the hint of it. She stayed scientific, but I could see the worry in her eyes. Something about those wounds bothered her. She checked them over and over, comparing arcs and depths. I tried to tell myself it was a mix of strange events and bad luck. Maybe debris. Maybe a dead whale drifting from somewhere far away. The mind looks for reasons, even weak ones, when the ocean starts acting wrong. Still, the crew's jokes got shorter. The laughs faded faster. Men and women who usually teased each other on watch started staring out at the water as if it stared back. One night, I sat in sonar with Kim and Hart. The room was dim, lit by that soft green glow. The pulse returned, deeper and closer. Each time Archer changed speed, the pulse shifted with us. Not instant, but close enough. Hart leaned toward the screen, her breath slow. "This is not rock," she whispered. She did not mean for me to hear it, but sonar is a quiet space. Every word finds you. That pulse stayed steady under us, like something alive settling in place. The depth readouts told me how much water stood between us and the bottom. The numbers always felt large. That night, they felt thin. I remember thinking that whatever waited down there was done watching from a distance. It felt like the sea had stopped holding its breath. And we were staying right where Command wanted us. Command's next message came during a gray morning watch, no reason given. No extra context. Just a line instructing us to deploy an experimental beacon at the basin's edge. The wording sounded harmless, acoustic propagation test. We all knew those tests usually meant sending patterns of sound into deep water to see how far they traveled. Nothing new. Still, the timing felt strange. We had already lost a sensor and recovered a crushed buoy. Hart looked uneasy when she read the printout. The beacon was a compact device with a tough composite shell and a long cable spool. It was built to hold steady in rough seas and send out tones across a wide range. Hart called it a simple tool. Kim checked the specs twice before he signed off. Harlow studied the casing with the same look he used when listening for faint submarines. None of us said what we were thinking. We all knew the basin had turned strange, and this thing was about to sing into it. They deployed the beacon at night. The sea had a thin chop, enough to make the deck feel alive under your boots. I listened from sonar as the test tones started. Steady pulses drifted into the deep. Then a low sweep, then another. Nothing unusual at first, just sound meeting water. But after a few cycles, the contact appeared again. It rose out of the background like a mountain forming under our screens. A soft-edged mass with no lines of metal, no propeller noise, no sign of any machine. It moved slow at first, then steadied at a depth far below us. It matched our speed almost exactly, as if studying us. When the beacon shifted into a new tone pattern, the contact turned toward it with clear intent. Soon after, the sea around us changed in small but sharp ways. Lookouts reported patches where the surface seemed to lift like something wide rolled just under it. Each time they pointed, the water settled before others could see. I trusted those lookouts. They were trained to notice small changes in wind and swell. If they saw something, I believed them. Just before dawn, the ship shuddered. Not a full strike. More like a heavy brush under the stern. Enough to knock gear loose in a few compartments. Enough to make people swear softly and reach for handrails. When damage control checked, they found dents and scraped paint low on the hull. The marks were wide, not sharp. More like something large slid under us and touched us on purpose. In sonar, I had seen the contact pass under the stern seconds before the jolt. It moved upward a little, then dipped back. Hart leaned over my shoulder, studying the trail. Her face had that steady calm she used when she did not want to show worry. Kim crossed his arms and said nothing. After sunrise, we recovered what was left of the beacon signal. It went silent during a later test cycle. I remember the exact moment. 1 second it was there, a clear tone echoing off the bottom. The next second it cut off mid-pulse. Right before it vanished, a sharp noise hit my headset. A hard, thick crunch, the kind you hear when metal gives under pressure. I remember pulling the phones off my ears and rubbing my jaw because the sound seemed to go right through bone. We marked the position and sent a boat crew to collect the remains in daylight. When they came back, the casing was split open, not torn by waves or age, crushed inward. Segments missing in a curved shape, like something had taken hold of it with great force. Hart examined it in silence for a long time. She measured the arcs. She traced the edges. I waited for her to say it. She did not. She just met my eyes and said, "This was not a pressure failure." That night, more dead fish drifted past us. Big ones. Their bodies were carved by huge, curved gouges. A few hours later, a small whale passed in the wake. Its flank looked as if a giant set of teeth rigged through it. The smell reached us even from the deck. Rot, blood, salt. It mixed with the usual scents on the Archer until it felt like the whole ship carried the weight of death on the air. The contact stayed close after that, always a few hundred meters below and behind us, following as we ran our track. If we slowed, it slowed. If we turned, it matched. The depth numbers on my screen became something I watched constantly. They told me how much water separated us from that thing. Some hours it felt like a lot. Other hours it felt like the ocean had thinned around us. By the end of that day, the jokes had stopped. The noise in the mess felt forced. People slept lighter. No one said the word shark, but everyone used words like it or whatever is down there. Late that night, on a routine pass, the beacon signal gave one last faint ping from the seafloor. Then nothing. A moment later, the big contact drifted across that position on sonar. I heard another slow, heavy crunch in the audio channel, almost like the earlier one. Then the silence settled again. Reed logged the loss and marked the grid for follow-up. We all knew then that something alive down there had started paying attention to us. Morning light came pale and thin when the RHIB crew went out to recover what remained of the beacon. The sea was calm, almost gentle, as if the basin wanted to hide what it had done during the night. From sonar, I could track the boat as a small, bright splash of return against the dark water. I watched until they brought the pieces aboard. The casing was in worse shape than I expected. Parts were crushed inward in a smooth pattern. A long section was missing, as if torn away clean. Hart crouched beside it with her notebook. She wore gloves, but I noticed the way she handled the fragments. She was not afraid of the metal. She was afraid of what had shaped it. She pulled Kim and me aside. Her voice stayed calm. She told us the damage came from jaw pressure, not collision. The composite shell was designed for deep ocean stress. Nothing simple could bend it like this. She did not say teeth. She did not have to. Later, they brought aboard a dead whale calf. It floated up against our port side, turning slowly. The body carried deep curved bite marks that cut through flesh and bone. Diaz and Hart examined it on deck. Both spoke in short sentences, measuring arcs and depths, taking small samples. The smell was thick and foul. It mixed with the regular ship smells until it felt like the whole air had turned sour. None of the marks matched orca hunting wounds. They were larger, deeper, smoother. Hart said the radius did not match any great white either. She wrote down numbers, as if the right set of figures would make the creature less real. The contact on sonar rose a little after that, still deep but closer than before. It moved with us almost like a shadow. Every time I checked the depth numbers, I felt a tightness in my chest. The space under the keel felt smaller. The room to run felt thin. By then, the crew had changed. People who never worried about the sea now avoided looking over the rail at night. Some slept in their life vests. The jokes around the mess table sounded weak. The laughter died fast. No one wanted to say it, but the ocean did not feel empty anymore. One night, around mid-watch, we took a harder hit. The stern jumped under us. A sharp metallic groan ran through the hull. Damage control found a dented section and a thin crack in one compartment. They shored it fast, but the message was clear. The creature was not testing us anymore. It was pushing. When we checked sonar logs after the strike, the contact had shifted from trailing us to sliding directly under the stern. Then it rose a little, then dropped away. It felt like a deliberate move, like it was searching for a weak spot. Reed sent an encrypted report describing the contact as a large biological presence that tracked the ship and struck equipment. The reply from command came hours later. Calm, short, detached. They told us to maintain position for another full night and continue collecting data. No mention of danger, no thought of pulling us out. That message felt worse than the strike. Shore read it with a stiff jaw. Reed said nothing for a long time. Then he folded the paper and walked to the bridge windows. I saw him watching the horizon, his eyes steady and tired. He was a good officer. He knew we were staying out here because someone above him needed us to stay. Around midnight, the contact slid forward and dropped under our bow. It hovered there, just sitting in the dark water, as if waiting for our next move. The sonar return was softer than before, but huge. Too huge for anything alive. Yet there it was, holding steady. The ship moved over that point. As our bow passed above it, the water felt wrong. The deck under my boots felt loose for a moment, like the sea had lost its hold. A strange stillness spread through the hull, almost like a breath being drawn. That calm was worse than any strike we had taken. It felt like the ocean was waiting, and something deep below was waiting with it. The strange calm under the keel lasted only a moment, but it stayed with me. The ship felt as if it had passed over an empty space, shaped like a living thing. Right after that, a sharp jolt hit us from below. Not enough to tear anything open, but strong enough to make everyone grab for support. A few trays slid off counters. Someone in the passageway stumbled. It felt like the creature was testing our strength and learning how we moved. A few hours later, a secure message came through. Shore and Reed were called to the comms room for an encrypted briefing. No one else was allowed inside. When they came out, neither spoke. Reed's face held a tight strain I had never seen on him before. Shore wrote notes without meeting anyone's eyes. Harlow learned pieces through channels he did not explain. He pulled me aside in sonar and repeated what he had heard. The truth had been hidden from us since the start. The sensor anomaly was not an accident. The sensor field in this basin had been part of a classified tracking program for months. It had recorded movements of something large and silent at extreme depth. Something that moved in ways nothing known should move. The arrays had caught it rising, drifting, sinking, and circling patterns too steady to be random. The beacon Hart deployed was also part of the program. It was made to pull the creature closer by sending out sound patterns the arrays believed it reacted to. We were told the beacon was just an experiment. In reality, it was bait meant to draw in a deep predator. Archer had been chosen because she was strong, well-armed, and reliable. Someone in a higher office believed we could survive first contact if things went wrong. That belief felt careless when you looked at the crushed casing and dead marine life drifting past. Reed was furious that he had not been warned. Harlow said Shore argued they could not break off now without orders. They were already deep inside the operation. Hart took it the hardest. She had come on board as a scientist, not someone feeding a predator. She realized her work was folded into something she had never agreed to. Her face changed after that. More quiet, more guarded. When I pieced the fragments together, the truth came clear in one awful sweep. We were not unlucky sailors who had crossed paths with something strange. We were the surface piece of a long study. We had been placed above a known threat. We had called it closer with our own hands. The creature had not wandered here by chance. We had rung its door. Reed received a final verbal line from command: keep all notes conservative and avoid strong biological labels in written records. No matter what we experienced, the files would never say the real thing. The silence after that order felt like a weight on the whole ship. Whatever came next, we would face it without support and without truth. Reed increased readiness the next morning. Extra lookouts on deck. Damage control gear staged in advance. More checks on the pumps and bulkheads. He stayed within the grid pattern as ordered, but he shifted us towards slightly shallower ground when he could. He did it quietly, as if hoping command would not notice. The creature's behavior changed again. It rose higher in the column, sliding toward mid-depth. Whenever Archer made a slow turn or reduced speed, the contact moved closer. When we held steady, it drifted back, but never far. It was studying us, watching how we reacted. One night, while checking the earlier dents near the stern, a bulge of water rose beside the ship. The deck crew saw a wide, pale underside glide past, along with a huge tail that moved with slow, heavy purpose. It slipped back under before the rest of us could reach the rail. Their faces told the truth. Whatever followed us was beyond anything they had imagined. Later, we launched a small, unmanned submersible toward the slope of the basin. The camera sent back grainy pictures of rock and open dark. Then, in the last frame before losing signal, a wall of flesh filled the view. A blur of teeth came straight at the lens. Then nothing. The screen turned into static. The next strike hit harder than the others. The stern shook under us, almost lifting. A propeller shroud bent inward. One sailor in engineering fell and hurt his back so badly, Diaz had to move fast to keep his breathing steady. The smell of oil and hot metal filled the passageways. The ship felt wounded in a way we had not felt before. Crew voices changed after that. Some whispered about leaving the grid on our own. Others stared at the water, as if expecting it to rise any moment. Shore still followed the orders. She spoke of duty and the chain of command. Reed stood between her and the crew, carrying pressure from both sides. He wanted to protect the ship, but he also knew disobeying command could break his career and leave us marked as failures. In a quieter moment below deck, Hart spoke to me alone. She said the bite measurements and depth patterns did not match a lone survivor. Some old records hinted at multiple individuals across different trenches. She feared this basin might not hold the only one. I watched her hands as she spoke. They did not shake, but her eyes had that distant look of someone seeing a larger picture no one else wanted to believe. That evening, during a slow survey pass, the contact shifted again. It moved very close under us, then vanished from the display completely. The screen went blank except for the usual background noise. No target, no shape, just the hum of the ocean. The hair on my arms rose. When something that size disappears, it is not gone. It is choosing silence. A long, deep vibration rolled through the keel. Not a hit, not a pass. More like a giant presence moving upward through the water beneath us. I felt it through my boots, through the deck, through the metal of the console. It felt like the creature was rising straight toward the hull. The deep vibration grew stronger until every plate in the hull seemed to carry it. I held the console edge and watched the blank sonar screen, waiting for the return to show. Before it did, the ship lurched. A huge force struck under the stern, far harder than any earlier hit. The deck rolled enough to send a few sailors sliding into a bulkhead. A metal cabinet slammed open. Tools scattered across the floor. The stern dipped as if something had pressed down on it. For a moment, I thought we were going under. Then the bow lifted, and the engines fought to pull us forward. Pumps kicked on. Voices called out in controlled tones. Damage control teams ran for their spots. I tried to keep my eyes on sonar, but the shaking made the screen blur. When the image steadied, I saw the contact hugging our hull from below, sliding along the stern like a living wedge. It moved toward port, then forward, feeling its way along the steel. I had never imagined something alive could sense a ship the way a hand senses a wall in darkness. Overhead, a team went out to check earlier dents. The next moment, water surged over the deck. A huge shape surfaced beside them. I only saw it in a quick flash through a camera feed, a pale ridge rising, thicker than any whale's back, pushing a swell that washed across the deck. One sailor slipped under the safety line and vanished over the side. He did not shout. He did not even have time. A dark mass turned in the water, and red spread out in thin trails. Then the sea went still. Reed's voice came over the shipnet, steady but tight. He gave up any idea of more testing. We were done gathering data. He told the XO they had two choices: take the fight to the creature in a way that counted, or wait for it to tear us apart piece by piece. There was no room left for orders that kept us still. He worked out a simple plan. We would pull the creature toward a shallower ridge at the basin's outer edge. The ridge cut upward in a long slope, leaving less vertical room for something big to maneuver. If we could keep the creature chasing us into that area, we could deploy depth charges and a few short-range anti-submarine weapons in a tight pattern. The shockwaves might stun it, or at least drive it off. If we stayed in deep water, we would not survive a second full hit. Reed ordered the division chiefs to pass the word. No long talk, no dramatic speech. Just clear tasks spoken in calm voices. Weapons crews prepared the charges. Engineering tuned the engines for steady power. Damage control stood ready even though they were already worn from the earlier hits. The message was simple: get to the ridge, fire everything we had, and leave. Archer pushed forward. The engines rattled a little from the strain, but they held. I felt each vibration and checked the depth numbers out of habit. The bottom climbed in slow steps on the screen. The water under us grew thinner in ways that made me uneasy. I knew the creature could use deep water like a shield. Bringing it into shallower ground felt bold, but also dangerous if we misjudged the timing. The contact followed. It stayed a few hundred meters behind us at first, then crept closer. It was patient. That patience scared me more than any strike. It bumped the hull again, not as hard this time, more like it wanted to remind us it was still there. Every few minutes I felt that faint low-pressure shift in my headset. That sound had become a kind of warning. When it grew stronger, the creature was rising. When it faded, it was falling back. It matched us step for step, keeping close enough to track, but far enough to avoid any traps we might set too early. As we neared the ridge, the depth numbers tightened. The ocean felt smaller. The air and sonar felt heavier. I could smell oil, salt, and a faint trace of burnt wiring from the earlier impact. It clung to my clothes and made me think of the dead whale that had drifted past days earlier. Reed called for a slight drop in speed, just enough to tempt the creature into closing the gap. The contact moved faster on sonar, rising in the water. My pulse picked up when I saw it angle upward. We crossed the first mark of the kill zone. Weapons crews waited for the moment Reed had chosen. They held the charges ready. I watched the contact surge faster, closing the last stretch beneath our stern. Its mass rose on the screen, huge and impossible. Then Reed gave the order. The ship eased off the throttle. The creature rushed upward, aiming for the underside of the hull, right where we expected it to come. The ridge stood below us like a trap waiting to close. The moment the creature surged upward, Reed gave the signal. Weapons crews released the depth charges in the tight pattern they had practiced. A pair of short-range torpedoes fired toward the ridge slope, where the shockwaves would bounce back. The timing had to be exact. Too soon, and the creature would slip away. Too late, and we would take the force ourselves. The first explosion hit like a hammer. The whole ship shook. My console went white for a moment, the sonar screen drowning in noise. I held onto the edge so I would not slide off the seat. The second blast rolled through the hull like a deep roar. Lights flickered. A faint smell of burning insulation drifted through the vents. My teeth buzzed from the shock. When the noise thinned, the sonar picture came back in broken pieces. I tapped the gain and steadied the display. The contact was still there, but no longer smooth. It twisted and rolled in uneven sweeps. The shape blurred, then stretched, then collapsed inward before spreading again. It reminded me of a wounded animal trying to find its balance. Someone topside called down through the net that the water behind us was boiling. Floodlights were angled aft. In the chaos of turning foam and spray, a massive body rolled partly out of the surface. I saw it on a nearby screen for only a few seconds. Torn flesh hung in dark strips. Scars ran down its side, old ones mixed with fresh ones. Small parasitic shapes clung to the rough skin. The length of what we saw was more than a truck, and it was only a fraction of its full body. It rolled once, then slipped back into the dark, leaving a wide stain in the water. For a moment, the contact sank. The sonar trace faded downward. Its movement slowed. I watched the depth numbers climb under it as it fell toward the slope. Voices around the ship rose in cautious hope. A few people let out small breaths they had held for too long. Someone near the console whispered that we might have killed it. Archer began a slow turn to clear the area. Pumps ran steady in the bowels of the ship. The engines gave a tired groan, like they felt the strain as much as we did. Reed ordered a measured retreat. No rush, just distance. Then the sonar screen jumped. A sharp spike rose from beneath the bow, faster than anything I had seen. It did not roll or drift. It charged. Straight up, my mouth went dry. I called out the contact spike, but the hit came before I finished the words. The creature struck the bow from below, slightly off to starboard. The force felt like the deck had been kicked upward by a giant foot. I fell against the console. Loose gear slid forward. A metal stool rolled across the floor and hit the bulkhead. Forward compartments buckled. One space near the bow flooded fast. The ship pitched down and the deck tilted. People grabbed rails. A few slipped and slammed into walls. Over the net, a voice shouted that a storage room had collapsed inward, trapping several sailors behind a bent frame. Damage control ran with cutters and shoring beams, fighting to reach them before water or pressure made it impossible. The smell of wet metal and oil filled the air. It mixed with old coffee and sea salt until every breath tasted like the ship itself was bleeding. Engineering pushed the engines to counter the tilt, forcing power into one shaft and shifting ballast. Each adjustment felt like we were trying to lift the bow by hand. The ship groaned with every change, but slowly, inch by inch, Archer's nose came back up. Pumps fought the flooding. DC teams wedged beams under weakened bulkheads. When they finally reached the trapped sailors, their faces showed fear held tight behind discipline. I kept my eyes on sonar. The contact wavered beneath the bow. No smooth shape now. It looked broken. It drifted sideways, then down. The return dimmed with every passing second. I tracked it as long as I could. The signal grew thin. Then it was gone. Silence filled the headset. I waited a full minute, listening for anything. No pulse, no movement. Only the soft background of deep water. When Reed heard my report, he ordered us to make best safe speed out of the basin. No one questioned it. No one spoke at all for a while. We were alive, but only just. As Archer pulled away from the ridge, I kept watching the blank screen, feeling the slow vibration of the wounded hull under my boots. I knew we had escaped something we were never meant to meet, and I also knew the ocean had not given up all its secrets. It had only closed its mouth around one of them. Archer limped out of the basin like a wounded animal. The hull creaked in a way I had never heard before. Pumps ran without pause. Temporary shoring braced weak frames. Passageways smelled of oil, wet steel, and the burnt edge of overworked wiring. No one complained. Everyone understood how close we had come. We lost good people. Others carried wounds that would follow them for years. Diaz moved from bunk to bunk, checking bandages, washing cuts, talking in a calm voice that kept fear from spreading. The mess deck stayed quiet. Even the usual clatter felt softer, as if the ship itself was trying not to draw attention. Once we reached clearer water, a support ship answered our call. A helicopter lifted the worst cases off the deck. I watched it rise into the sky with a feeling halfway between relief and guilt. They were leaving the place that tried to kill us, but the rest of us had to stay with the memories. Tugs met us later and hooked up for the long tow toward a repair yard. Technical teams boarded and photographed everything. The crushed beacon pieces, the bent plating, the cracked bow frame, the strange arcs in the hull that no one wanted to name. Hart handed over her samples, though I could tell she already knew she would never see them again. Interviews came next. Long hours of questions asked by people with steady hands and short expressions. We told them what we saw, what we heard, what hit us. We talked about teeth flashes in the floodlights and the huge return on sonar. We described the dead whale and the crushed equipment. Some investigators listened with care. Others wrote phrases like unidentified submerged mass and possible environmental event. I heard drafts of the official report later. The language was soft, careful. It spoke about strong currents, unstable slopes, and unusual forces in deep water. Not one line carried the truth of what chased us. The ocean had nearly taken us, but the paperwork made it sound like the sea had only shrugged. Hart pushed back harder than the rest of us. She told the investigators that the bite marks and crushed casings did not match any known shark. She spoke about depth patterns and the strange low sounds we recorded. But when her words appeared in the tight notes, they sounded different, softer. The clear details were replaced with vague lines about large marine fauna and unusual interactions. Some sonar logs I had saved were flagged during system checks. When I tried to pull them up later, they were marked as corrupted. Other files vanished into folders none of us could open. Hart's photographs were taken for central analysis and never returned. She asked about them once. No one answered. Charts for the basin were updated a few weeks later. New markings warned about unstable slopes and unreliable depths. Nothing about a predator. Nothing about what lived down there. The risk had been turned into geology on paper. Archer went into long repairs after that. Rumors said she might never return to full duty. Too much hidden damage, too much stress on her frame. Some of the crew were shifted to new ships. Others took shore posts or left after their contracts ended. We scattered like a group that had survived a fire no one else believed in. Kim kept a small notebook with rough sketches of the creature's size. He showed it to me once before he left for a different command. The numbers made my stomach twist, even though I already knew we had faced something far beyond sense. Hart sent me one quiet message after she returned to her lab. She wrote that another team studying a deep trench had recorded low pulses almost identical to the ones we heard. She said it with care, as if knowing I did not need more reasons to lose sleep. I read her line many times. If the pattern was the same, then the basin we fought in was not the only place with something old moving in the dark. That truth settled deeper than any fear. It meant the ocean still held more than we understood, and whatever had hit us might not have been alone. I live far from the coast now. A small house, quiet street, simple work. Most days pass without trouble. People know I served, but they do not ask much. I keep those years tucked away. It is easier that way. When the sea is far behind you, memories lose some of their sharpness, but not all. Every time I see a headline about a ship damaged in deep water or a strange strike on a hull, I stop what I am doing. I read every line, searching for the small words they always use. Unusual force, possible submerged object, unexplained contact. I know those terms too well. They hide more than they reveal. Part of me still wants solid proof, a clear picture, a body washed ashore, something that forces people to admit what we saw. But another part of me knows what that would mean. If one body appeared, it would only confirm that others are still out there, moving under shipping lanes and drifting along deep slopes we have never mapped well enough. Sometimes at night, I remember the feel of the deck under my boots when we passed over that strange patch of slack water. It felt like crossing the shadow of a living canyon. I remember the trembling in the hull and the low-pressure hum that seemed to rise from the deep like a warning. I remember the boy we lost over the side. He never had a chance. People think the sea is calm when it looks smooth. They think danger shows itself. But I know better. I know what waited in that basin in 1997. I know how close we came to vanishing without a trace. When most people look at the ocean, they see water. When I look, even now, I see a mouth that never fully closed. One last thing. If you ever sail far out where the charts show only empty blue, pay attention to the silence under your feet. It might be listening. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And for more amazing horror stories, Just click the one showing right now on your screen.